So in today's video, I want to talk about one of the biggest mistakes that I made when it came to training my employees and how it ended up costing me millions of dollars. As we go through this, I want you to see for yourself as we're talking about it, how this could be a mistake that you are also making. And I'm giving you a little hint here because an overwhelming of small business owners are making this mistake as well. Fortunately, I figured it out. I was able to right the ship, but learn from my mistakes. Okay, we had hired a social media manager, okay? And they came in, they were skilled at a lot of different things. They knew the different channels very well. They knew graphic design well. They were able to figure out the different ad platforms. They had experience putting out content. So cool. You know, they came in with a breadth of experience and they had some skills. Just like every single human being in the world, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And this employee came in with strengths, but they also had one glaring weakness. And that was that they were not a great copywriter. They weren't horrible, but they weren't great. And with putting out great social media content, you know, you got to be pretty darn good at writing. So we needed to fill in the gaps in their information. The mistake that I made was because I was an experienced copywriter, I had spent so much time in the trenches. It's something I enjoyed. I've always found copywriting, you know, fun and enjoyable and fascinating, right? And also I was a teacher, right? I love to communicate. I want to make sure I'm building relationships with my employees, right? I became the mentor, the person who was actually training that employee. Nothing wrong with training your employee, but inevitably, if you as the entrepreneur are basically spending your time as the trainer for your employee, there's going to be a cap. There's going to be a drag on the actual time involvement that you have, okay? All those big opportunities that you should be chasing as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be able to do because you're managing and training and coaching that employee. What can you do instead? Well, follow me here. So as an entrepreneur, as I mentioned, we want to be working on major opportunities to make sure we have time available for that. So personally, I like to think of my time as being worth $10,000 an hour. I have to ask myself first and foremost, is me working with an employee, let's say we do a boot camp crash course in copywriting for, let's say 3 days straight, 9 hours a day, is that going to be worth $270,000 an hour? I'll take you through the math of that. $10,000 an hour, 9 hours a day, that's $90,000. 3 days, $270,000. You know, maybe the output of that person will generate $270,000 an hour. But is there a better way where you can have your cake, where you're still working on your $10,000 per hour tasks, right? And the employee can be trained at the same time, and it doesn't depend on you. So what you should do instead, and this is what finally I figured out, right, was that you should be basically just buying your employees courses, buying them books, giving them space to learn. Sometimes when I tell people, hey, I figured out this thing years ago, this is how you leverage, right? This is how you grow. You're not necessarily going to be in charge of training your employees directly, you know, all the fundamentals, right? They say, oh gosh, like my employee's not going to be productive during this time. I'm so afraid to have them just sit down and read a book because they need to be producing the widgets for the, you know, the company. So I should do it instead. Well, no. First of all, again, let's compare it to if you have the value of your time is $270,000 per hour, right? And let's say your employee's time, you're paying them $200 per day. So $200 times 3 is $600. So we have $270,000 of opportunity costs, and then we have $600 worth of employees' time, right? Instead, allow them the space to learn. Buy them some books, buy them some courses, right? That time freedom of you being able to work on those other opportunities and getting somebody else who actually has built a course, a step-by-step framework or a book, which chapters and, you know, had an editor go through it. Even if it gets them to 85%, maybe you would have gotten them to 100% or whatever, but think about the opportunity cost of your time of constantly having to be the only coach to help employees get better. You want them to autonomously be able to coach themselves. There are leverage tools out there, people who've created courses. It's well worth it. Short term, it may feel like a loss. Oh man, you know, we're putting $600 of employee time, plus I spent $50 on books or $1,000 on a course or whatever, right? But long term, you're freeing up your own time. We already talked about the massive opportunity benefits in terms of costs, you know, freeing up your own time, but also think about all the things they're going to be able to do to improve their productivity and deliver more value to the marketplace because they're more skilled in that particular area. So the basic summary is you do not have to be the person who's training your employees all the time. The trap is, especially if you're good and you're skilled in that area, you don't have to be the trainer. Don't fall into that trap. Sometimes it's easier if you're not skilled. You can just say, hey, listen, buy a course on coding. I don't know anything about coding. You do it by yourself, right? Entrepreneurs get trapped if they're good at that. You don't have to be the trainer. Invest in your employees in terms of courses and books. It's a leverage play of time, all right? Don't think short-sighted, think long-term, invest in their growth. One more final thing. Another fear factor that people have is they say, if I make my employees too good, and I get them too good and they know all the information, they might leave me. Well, guess what? Like, they're gonna leave you anyways because they're not getting the training and the mentorship and the growth outside of money in their particular job, right? Another way of looking at this is, what if they don't leave you? What I mean by that is, like, let's say you're so afraid to train them, you don't want to invest in them, and they don't leave you. So you've got this C- player, a representative of you, a person growing your asset, and they're putting out C- stuff in the marketplace. That's a really, really, really dangerous situation. So you want to make them the best version of themselves so they can produce for you and your asset, and you can help the marketplace and grow together. And so there we have it. You absolutely have to train your employees. You do not need to be the person doing it, especially if you're thinking about opportunity costs and big swings, big moves, right? Find the space for your employees to train. They do need to produce, of course, but little pockets of training here and there can have massive ROI. Go forth and prosper. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Steve Nixon. I make these videos just to give back. I've had so many people help me over the years in my entrepreneurial and my investor journey. This is the time in my career to help you succeed as well. Thanks again for watching. I'm Steve Nixon with StrategySamurai.com. See you in the next video.